Welcome to a new video about Sisir. In this video, I'll be showcasing a new feature I've added called Surface Comb. But before we get into that, I want to quickly show you a small improvement I've made to guide editing. If I select a bunch of guides with the rectangle selection and then I check the back of the head, I realize I have also selected all the guides on the other side. So now in the viewport settings, there is a new option called depth aware selection. If I now select the hair again from the front and check the back of the head, you can see that nothing is selected. Now, with multiple guides selected, if I hold the B key, you can see this new visualization here. When I move the mouse around, I can see an influence range. Then, while holding B, I can click the middle mouse button and drag left or right to increase or decrease the influence radius. And now, while holding B, you can start styling the selected guides all at once. You can adjust the influence at any time and continue working seamlessly. Let's do it again here on the back. Select the guides, then hold the B key and start styling. This feature was requested multiple times, and I do think it's useful and will improve your workflow significantly. Okay, let's now move on to the main topic, the newly added Surface Comb. I will demonstrate the basic features on a sphere so it's easy to understand. One of the things Sisir was lacking until now was the ability to just automatically cover the whole mesh with guides. So if you click on Populate Surface, you can see that the whole mesh is now covered with guides. You can change the density from this slider. So let's try reduce it a bit and then click on Populate Surface again. Sisir is going to warn you that the current guides will be replaced. So click Continue. So now we have less guides, or we can increase it all the way and click again. And now we get a lot of guides. The total amount of guides will of course depends on the size of your mesh. Let me set it back to default. This will give you a head start when you need to plant a lot of guides on a large surface, like for example, when making fur for an animal or things like that. Another thing you can do if you press F2 to switch to the hair module, let me just hide the hair. If you click on Paint Mask and you paint a mask on your mesh, let's paint something quickly. Okay, let's say this is my mask. So now if I switch back to the guide module, there is an option here called Use Vertex Mask. So now if I click on Populate Surface again, the guides will be generated respecting the mask. All right, let's comb the guides. So click on Draw Comb and just click on the mesh. You can see we now have a vector guide pointing in this direction, and all the guides are combed in the same direction. Down here, we can control the settings. So we have comb intensity and comb fall off. And then it's just a matter of placing other vector guides. So just click and drag to set the direction, click and drag, and click and drag. The settings are stored for each vector guide individually, and if you click on another vector guide, it will be added to the active selection, so it's easy to tweak them all at once. In this case, I have 3 active comb vectors, and when I change the parameters, they all update, and they blend together nicely. Or I can just select a single vector guide, and changing the parameter will only affect the selected one. But keep in mind that there is always a percentage of blending between the other vector guides. However, what probably most people are going to use is this option here called Resize Guide Length. You notice that something in the scene changed, and that's because now when I drag a vector guide, its length will influence the guides around it. And now I can just click and drag, and I will be able to easily determine both the direction and the length of the guides at the same time. And then I can decide if I want to tweak individual parameter for each vector guide or edit multiple at the same time. This is very useful when creating fur for animals, since the fur often have lots of lengths variation on the surface. Of course, I can also place my own guides manually as usual. I can just edit them normally. But if I want these guides to be influenced by the comb, all I have to do is just select a vector guide and move it slightly, and it will update to include the new guides. The surface comb is stored per layer. So if I create a new layer, then I change some settings and populate with more guides. And then I click on Draw Comb. Now, when I add the new vector guides, only the guides in the current layer are affected. So this will allow you to have control on different sets of guides independently. Okay, now that the basic concept is clear, let's see some practical applications. I'm going to use the mannequin, and let me just find a head that I like. Maybe this one. Okay, now let's say I want to create the peach fuzz for his face. This is something that used to take quite a long time to do. So I'll switch to the hair module, and like before, I'm going to hide the hair for now. Since the mesh is symmetrical, I will turn on mirror mode, fill the mask, and I am ready to paint the area where I want the peach fuzz to be. This will take a couple of minutes, so I'll just speed up the video. Of course, you can take as much time as needed to paint the mask properly. Okay, now back to the guide module, and let's scroll down to the surface comb. I'll increase the density and turn on Use Vertex Mask, and then click Populate Surface. Mirror mode is active and Surface Comb is compatible with it. For this one, I'll make sure to turn on Resize Guide Length, set the comb fall off to max, and I'm ready to add my combs. And now it's just a matter of click and drag to set the flow of the peach fuzz on the area of the face. Again, this will take a couple of minutes, so I will speed up the video, but compared to the previous method of manually having to draw each guide one by one on the surface, it's a massive time saver. So now switch to the hair module and let's make the actual peach fuzz. I'll adjust the hair thickness, then the density, and tweak the usual parameters. If you are new to Sisir and want to learn more about the hair module, please check my other videos on this channel. Okay, for the final touch, I can turn on paint length with a very low brush intensity and just paint out the length on the areas like the nose and around the eyes. And just like that, the peach fuzz is pretty much done. This only took me a few minutes, when previously this process would have taken over an hour of work. So the workflow improvement is massive. Lastly, I want to show you a scene I prepared while developing the surface comb. For this cat, I have created few different layers, splitting the body in various parts, and the entire fur was done exclusively by adding the vector guides. Let's switch to the hair module and give it a few seconds to generate the fur. This cat has about 665,000 hair, so it will take some time to generate. Okay, here it is. I have created several hair sets to add some variation to each part of the fur. And now we can press the R key to switch to the render module. And here's the scene I have set up. You can see the fur in all its detail. I think it looks pretty nice, and this is what it looks like with a fixed light. Another thing I can do is to load a blend shape. I have prepared a sitting pose for the cat. Now let's switch back to the hair module to update the fur. Again, this is a relatively heavy scene, so it will take few seconds. Okay, and now we can switch to the render module to admire our cat in its sitting pose. And here it is. The fur has been updated and everything looks nice. By the way, this scene is available to download on the Discord, so feel free to get it and explore how it was made in more details. So that's it for this video. If you want to try Sisir yourself, join the Discord using the link in the description. Sisir is completely free for everyone. Whether you're an indie artist, a freelancer, a small studio, or a large company, you're free to use Sisir in your commercial work. Keep in mind that Sisir is still a work in progress, so expect some bugs and issues along the way, but your feedback and suggestions are always welcome and really help me improve the tool. So join the Discord community and go download Sisir. I will see you there.